So, oh, and I can't see. I think we're on. Okay, we totally are. Hi, everybody. This is Jeanne Casteen, your Democratic candidate for Maricopa County School Superintendent. And today I'm super excited because I am joined by somebody that I really look up to and who is just a huge champion for public education here in Arizona. He represents Legislative District 29. And he also sits on the Education Committee in the Senate, which is super important because that's where all the action happens and where things actually, policies are changed and laws are made and all that kind of stuff. And I've seen him up there with the most grace and patience and leading always with kindness. And I don't know how he does it, but he's, like I said, a mentor to me. So, oh, and he's also on the Pendergast Elementary School District. So he is also one of those great school board members. So welcome, Senator Quezada. Thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate you.
Oh, no, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here with you.
So, all right, so let's talk a little bit. First of all, I'm trying to remember where the first time I ever met you was, and I'm sure it was probably an ASBA event, but we've known each other for quite a while now. So I'm pretty confident that it was either an ASBA event or possibly an NSBA event, but we've known each other for quite a while. So tell us, a little bit about you, introduce yourself and give us your background, Senator.
Sure. Well, my name's Martin Quezada, and right now I have the privilege of representing the people of Legislative District 29. That's Maryville and Glendale in the state Senate. I'm in my third term in the Senate there now, and I'm running for my fourth term this year. And I also serve the people of the Pendergast School District on their school board, and I am in my third term there on the Pendergast School Board as well. I'm in the middle of that term, so I don't have to run for re-election, thank goodness. But I have some colleagues that are up for re-election, but it's a great school district. I'm really proud to serve there. And yeah, and I think that, obviously being a public servant is a big part of my life. In my free time, the little that I have, I'm an attorney. I graduated from ASU and I was born and raised here in the West Valley, in the district that I represent now. So yeah, it's great to be here with you.
Awesome. And you are a product of public education here in Arizona, right? Peoria School District?
I graduated from Peoria Centennial High School. And before that, I went to two other elementary schools in the Peoria district as well.
So why is it that you initially decided to run for public office here in Arizona? What motivated you?
So originally I was not a big, I wasn't all that into politics as a youngster, both in high school and college even. It was not something that really caught my attention or got me really interested, and for a lot of reasons. But I think it was just not something I ever considered something that was for me. It was for people that wore suits and worked in big buildings and all of that, and all those politician people. But it was in my last semester at ASU when I was getting my bachelor's degree, and I realized I needed an internship, and I hadn't found one yet. And so one of my professors gave me an internship application, and it was for the state legislature, the state legislative internship program. And so I filled it out. I interviewed and I got accepted, and I went down to work at the Arizona State Senate for the Democratic caucus and that was at the beginning of the century. It was in 2001. So it was a long time ago. And so that was really my first true exposure to politics. And it was a full-time gig. I was there all day long. It was, from morning till evening, 5 days a week. And I was watching everything that happened in the state Senate that year. And so, really it was an eye-opening experience. It really terrified me to see, what ideas were being proposed, how people were voting, and then some of the people that were actually there that were supposed to be my leaders, my senators, and how they conducted themselves and what seemed to be their motivations. And so after that experience, after that internship, I thought, this is something I need to pay a lot more attention to and I need to get involved. So I ended up applying for a job there and I got hired. I ended up working there at the legislature for the next 4 years. That was a good 5 years that I spent working at the state capitol in the Senate and in the House of Representatives. And that led me to pursue a higher education after that. I quit that job to go to law school. And then it was after law school when I was approached and said, hey, there's an open seat in the House, and would you consider running for it? I had never thought I would run myself. I always thought I wanted to work and be in the background and be a staffer. But I was fresh out of law school. I was poor. I was single, and I really thought I have nothing to lose. So why the heck not? And so I ran, and I figured I'll try it once and see what happens. I ended up losing that race, and I thought, hey, I gave it a shot. That was fun. It was nice to try it out. But now I'm going to go be a lawyer now and live my life. And as Arizona politics would have it, the guy I lost to ended up getting indicted. He went to prison, and the seat opened up, and I was appointed to fill his seat in the State House of Representatives. And the rest is history.
That, of course, that's how it went down. I'm from
Right.
Illinois, and we have our fair share of corrupt politicians in Illinois throughout history. And you come out here, and it's like, oh, here, Illinois, hold my beer. That's what Arizona.
Right.
So I'm curious too, what was the makeup when you first got elected? Because I know that we're just one seat away from breaking even in the House. So what was it like back then?
So the House, they were still in the minority, and I can't remember the exact makeup in the House, but the Senate, this was a great time to be an intern because the Senate was actually a 15-15 split. So there was 15 Democrats and 15 Republicans, and that really created a scenario where it was a must that there had to be cross-party collaboration in order to get anything done. Because in order to get 16 votes to pass anything, you needed a bipartisan vote. So that was a tremendous experience because I got to learn what true bipartisanship really is. And I can tell you now that people at the legislature now have no idea what bipartisanship is. But there, it was true bipartisanship where Democrats and Republicans literally had to work together in order to get things done. So it was a tremendous experience to live during that one legislative term where we had a 15-15 split.
Yeah, no, that's a really great experience to have as your background, so you can kind of see the right way to do things or what you needed to do to get those bills passed. Leila Alston would say it all the time. It used to be that we could, disagree respectfully on the floor of either the House or the Senate, and then go, have margaritas across the street later on. And there was no hard feelings and everybody was civil to each other. And now this is a perfect segue because you do have a very important position on the Senate Education Committee. And I have been to many of those meetings or those hearings, and that is one tough gig. So, and I know you're passionate about education and equity for our kids and good programming and proper funding. So let's talk a little bit about that. What are some of the really bad bills that you've seen come across your desk?
There's been a lot of them over the years, and I've been in the Senate for 6 years now. I've only been on the Education Committee for the past 2 years. So kind of watching a lot of that unfold up close and personal has really only been in the last 2 years. But in that 2 years, it's been an amazing experience to see some of those things that I've come across. I mean, obviously, I was there during the Red for Ed movement, and I can say that probably the most frustrating non-action that's been taken has been to fund our schools. So any type of funding aspect to putting more money into our schools has just not gone through. And whether it's been on the actual Education Committee or in the Finance Committee where I serve as well, where we see tax credit after tax cut after tax credit after tax cut come through, mostly for large corporations and special interests, and you see that this one committee is chopping the other committee down at the knees when we're trying to get things done. And so I would say the biggest frustration is the lack of funding that we've seen. And I'm sure that anybody who's been there and watched would agree with that.
Oh, yeah. And, we're both school board members too. So the last 8 years of serving on my school board, and then the 4 years before that as just a classroom teacher, I just watched the budget year after year get decimated. And we would literally, have to be having these discussions about how we have to get rid of 15 things on this list, rank them. And those are very difficult conversations. And,
Right.
school boards too have the power to decide if their district is going to fund full day kindergarten or, things that make a huge difference for the community and the outcomes for our kids. So it's such a frustrating time. What is the most frustrating part when you are sitting in there and you see this, maybe a sea of red, or whether maybe the bill, like one of the worst ones that I saw this last session was about curriculum, and how teachers would have to get approval from their school board 2 weeks
Yes.
before, and I just think about this COVID scenario that we're in right now, and how as a teacher, your job is to really pivot and be able to deliver instruction that's super relevant to what the kids are going through. So if we all had to suddenly, wait until the next board meeting to get curriculum done, and then with COVID too, and everybody's home, could you imagine if the teachers now suddenly would have to get approved? Give me a break. It's ridiculous. So what happens when you're sitting up there and you see that kind of activity?
Yeah, I think one of my biggest fears is, I mean, I'm a pretty optimistic person in general. I try to believe that we can accomplish anything at the Capitol if we have the right people there. I try to believe in the best in people, and I let them prove me wrong, and I give them the benefit of the doubt. And that's ended up hurting me a lot of times, but I try to be optimistic. And I think my biggest fear seeing that is especially those days when the crowd is full of red t-shirts, full of educators who are busy educating most of the time in their classrooms, and they're taking a day off to come to the state capitol, and this is what they are witnessing. A panel of legislators who are pretending to listen to them and then basically ignoring them and voting the exact opposite way that they're being asked to vote. My biggest fear is that the audience, the spectators, our bosses, like our constituents, are going to lose faith in us and lose faith in this process. And that's tough because I've seen educators spend hours there. I mean, camping out at the Capitol, spending the night there watching those all-night budget discussions, and to see them the votes still come up short after all the effort that they've put in. That's a devastating feeling for somebody who's especially new to that process and who isn't used to that type of disappointment over and over again. And so I fear that they will lose hope in that process when in reality we are so close to being able to accomplish every single one of those goals that they are advocating for, and that the more knowledgeable our voters are about what happens down there, and the more they start to change their voting patterns just a little bit, we could actually get a lot of things done. And we're so close. And my hope is that they just won't lose hope in all of it.
Yeah, and I felt the same way after 2018, when Doug Ducey's handpicked Supreme Court basically, knocked down any possibility of the Invest in Ed initiative getting onto the ballot. I was really worried because you're right, a lot of those teachers weren't necessarily, most of the time I feel they were plugged in somewhat to politics at varying degrees. But, to take an active stance or to support a campaign like yours, or, to work so hard pounding the pavement in 110-degree heat. But I feel like if anything, that just kind of lit another fire. It was packed again this, before everything was shut down. I saw there were days where there were lots and lots of teachers there. And there were lots and lots of teachers there back in 2019 as well. And now I've just on social media alone, and of course through all these different groups I belong to, whether it's AEA or AEU, these folks are turning out. And they're not just educators, they're people who love educators. Maybe that's a daughter or a parent, or they just care about public education. And the way that they've been turning in those signatures, I have just been absolutely blown away. And I love the fact that SOS, when they realized that theirs wasn't going to go through, that they were going to go full steam ahead and help out the Invest in Ed movement. So I think, and now look at we have kind of a record number of teachers who are running for office. And I think that voice is super important. So I think we're getting there.
Yeah, I feel like it too. And it's been amazing because you look at what happened after 2018 and all the progress we made just after this last election cycle, and we almost did it this last cycle, flipped a chamber. So yeah, we're on the path to getting there. We really are.
So let's say that, let's just pretend for a second that everything is flipped. The Senate's flipped, the House is flipped. We have at least one extra person in each chamber, what would be the type of legislation that you'd like to bring first?
Oh, I mean, there's a number of places I would want to start. I mean, there's a whole, I mean, and it's not just education. I mean, obviously education is huge in our state, but there are so many other areas that we need to be addressing. Everything from providing better health care. I mean, you look at what's happening right now just with COVID and everything happening with COVID, and the fact that unemployment insurance is at such a low level, one of the lowest in the nation, and that sets people up to fail. So everything that sets our community up to fail, I would want to bring up, I would want to fix. And that's one thing right there. Just raising our unemployment insurance benefits would be something huge that would really benefit people and help get them back on their feet. And when you have people back on their feet, their kids aren't suffering at home, which means they aren't going to school and not being able to focus at school. They're to be able to perform better at school. That takes some of the burden off of some of our educators at school. And then if we're able and then that allows them to go back to work and then earn some more money and then invest more money in the economy, which allows us to raise more revenues, which allows us to invest more in our education. So I mean, everything will snowball once we get started. But I think addressing COVID right now is the number one priority. So all of those things we need to do. Bringing back more testing especially into some of our underserved areas where there were people waiting in line for 13 hours just to get tested the other day. That is an urgent need right now, addressing COVID. And you look at the numbers that are rising every single day, that's urgent. After we address some of that, there's all sorts of things we need to address. And I think, public education is a big one. Investing in it, if this Invest in Ed thing is going to be huge if this gets onto the ballot, which I'm very confident it will. And if it passes, which I'm very confident it will, that will bring in a lot of money for us. That will really help us sustain things. But there's more we're going to have to do on top of that. Addressing some of our schools' capital needs as well, and dealing with that lawsuit is something we're going to have to deal with. And then just all of the other areas, criminal justice reform, everything happening with our law enforcement, healthcare, our climate, addressing our climate, and it's getting hotter in Arizona every single day. And so there's a lot that we have to do, and it's just going to be a matter of kind of dividing and conquering all of it.
Yeah, and thankfully, we already have some good, really hardworking people here in Arizona. Not just those who are elected officials, but all the people who work on, boots on the ground. I've been so incredibly grateful throughout this entire campaign at the number of people who just want to step up and help good candidates. Whatever talent they have or whatever little money they have, they've been so generous. And I have to, fundraising is a difficult thing. It's always hard to ask people for money. And I got some good advice from somebody one time where they said, this isn't about you. This is about how we can all affect positive change in Arizona. So being able to reframe it about why we have to do this fundraising thing and what we're hoping to get. It's not about me getting into higher office. I just see a need and I want to be able to help, and especially right now, so many opportunities to help districts. Since we are a non-unified kind of Wild West thing, let's do whatever we can to bring resources and allow districts to share whatever it is they need to. Because I'll tell you what, one thing that I did notice was when Q4, kind of just ended and everybody moved to virtual learning, I saw a lot of charter schools who were pointing community members who had been attending the school to the direction of their traditional public schools, because they were the ones who were still feeding the kids. They were the ones who were making sure the basic needs of our families were taken care of, and we were plugging them into whatever resources they needed. And the Wi-Fi situation, that's where the decisions are made. And speaking of, you guys actually just had a meeting last night regarding COVID. And so what did Pendergast decide last night?
Yeah, so Pendergast, we just had a special meeting last night, our school board, and we were trying to decide how we're going to move forward and open up our schools for the fall semester. Our parents are asking about it. Our educators are asking about it. They want to know so they can start planning and preparing. And we wanted to, consider every factor that is out there and do what's best to accomplish two goals. One, to provide a quality education to our kids, and two, to keep all of our educators and our community safe, and do that without losing funding because of the way the state is dealing with us. So what we decided to do last night is we decided to our start date for schools is August 5th. That's when we that's our open date for our schools. And we had to decide, are we going to open up our schools and bring kids back in and put them in a classroom? Or do we go a virtual route, or do we do some sort of combination, some sort of hybrid education system? So what we decided last night was that we were going to go all virtual. We were going to open on August 5th, but it will all be done virtually. So kids will be getting online like we're doing here with Zoom, and they will be learning in that way. And we didn't, the governor said that he delayed the physical opening of schools until the 17th. We didn't set that as our end date for our virtual, for the end date of our virtual education. We kept that end date open because we still don't know how the governor is going to respond to the COVID crisis and if the numbers are going to continue to rise. So we didn't want to provide a date where we told parents your kids are going to come back and then have to change that if things got worse or didn't get better. And so we left that date open, and our hope is that we can bring kids back into their schools. But if we can't, and if it's not safe, we will continue to operate virtually from that point forward.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's what a lot of us are leaning towards right now, just because the numbers really aren't going down. I feel like we have to have at least a few weeks, right? I mean, and now I just heard again that New York is, the plan that they had to reopen their restaurants has changed. And so it's only going to be limited outdoor dining. It's just a new world that we live in right now. And for the foreseeable future, we're going to really have to change things up and really have a complete paradigm shift about how we've been going about business. And I'm certainly not suggesting that online learning is the wave of the future, because we know that our kids need connection. It's just, how can we connect with them in the best way possible in this virtual world? So how did Pendergast address the digital divide in your district? What were you guys able to do to make sure that your kids were connected so that they could get online and participate in these kinds of meetings?
Right, and we should be very clear too that virtual is by far not ideal for any of our kids or for any of our educators, and so it's a struggle. It really is. So, the digital divide is a big proponent of that, big part of that. So we had been trying to address the digital divide before the COVID crisis hit as well. So I think I really am proud of the work our administration and our board did in that aspect to try to provide those one-to-one students to devices situation before this was happening. So we didn't have as much of a digital divide before this, but there is still some, and there is still some with the most kids are going to have access to a device, but there is some that still don't have that Wi-Fi access or that internet access. And so we are working with all of them to provide that either through services that we as a district are providing, or hooking them up with discounted services through providers, or finding ways to connect with other families or other or just connecting of families together so that they can share their resources.
Yeah, that was a tough, and the thing is, all of us educators, we know about this digital divide. It's never been a secret in the world of education, but I hope at the very least, again, trying to find silver linings in this crazy time that we live in, but I hope that at the very least it exposed some of those inequities, and that coupled with the protests that have been taking place, I hope to see a lot more advocacy in the way of making things more equitable for our most vulnerable communities. And this is where the opportunity is. We have a couple of people on who are just wanted to give a shout out. Lisa Calderon she says, thank you, Senator Quesada. As a parent, the walkout opened my eyes as to why we need to hold our legislators accountable. I appreciate you, both of you. So thank you, Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa.
And then Sophia Ramirez, who's actually a candidate who just turned in all of her signatures here in the Creighton School District. She wanted to let you know that she appreciates the anti-shaming lunch bill, Senator. So thank you for that.
Oh, good. Thank you. Yeah, and good luck, Sophia. Let me know how I can help you out with your campaign.
Oh, she's fantastic. You'll have to get, I don't have the TikTok yet. Okay, I should. And I'm just kidding when I say the TikTok. I know it's just TikTok, but I don't have it, but she's got a really strong TikTok game. I've seen him on Facebook. You got to check her out.
Right on.
And she also comes very highly recommended by Devin Del Palacio. So he was the one that sure to run for the board. We also have Mariana Sandoval from Agua Fria School District, who I know you've endorsed me, you've endorsed Mariana.
Yes.
So I don't know, I'm super optimistic that we're going to see a big blue wave. And I just think the GOP isn't going to know what hit them, and they're going to be forced to collaborate.
Yes, I'm looking forward to working with both of you.
Right on. So, okay. So let's make sure that we allow you to talk a little bit about how folks can, because we both are, we're up for election. I know that this is your last term, but you're still running a campaign. I'm sure you're going to be working on getting out the vote. So how can people connect to your campaign, Senator?
Yeah, definitely. I would say first, check out my website. It's martinquezada.com. That's how you spell my name right there. But it's martinquezada.com. That's a great place to check me out. All of my social media has the same handle. So it's SEN, like Senator, SEN Quesada 29. That's my district number. So Sen Quesada 29. That's on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and whatever else is out there. All the other ones too. I think I have all of them. Those are the ones I use the most. But check me out there, and you could sign up to support and help out my campaign as well. martinquezada.com/support. And there's a link there where you can sign up to be a volunteer and help me out in a bunch of different ways. So I would really appreciate if people checked that out and followed me on social media too. I try to keep a strong social media game going and keep my constituents updated about what's happening in my district.
Yeah, and I think you do a really good job of it too. I've been to your LE29 meetings, and I really enjoy when we get to hear straight from our legislators what's going on at the Capitol. Because I know when I was at your meeting the last time, this is in February, so like a month before everything just got flipped over, I was sitting there taking furious notes.
We've got a great LD and great LD leadership in my district, so I feel very fortunate to serve in this area.
Yeah, no, it's a great area. Oh, and now you can collaborate too with the new county supervisor candidate, Suzanne Story,
Yes.
who's on the side as well. So she's got a write-in campaign going on. I'll hopefully have her on a Facebook Live soon. And honestly, I do this because otherwise I'd probably drive my family crazy. So at least for a half hour a day, I shut the door and don't drive anybody crazy.
Nice.
So, okay. All right, it's almost time, and I want to honor your time because I'm sure you have a lot that you are working on to try to get done. So tell us, when you're not working on school board stuff or politics in general, what is something that you enjoy to do in your off time?
So yeah, when I have off time, which is not much, but when I do, I love to read. I'm constantly reading. And I'm a huge Marvel fan. So all the Marvel movies, all of the TV shows that are in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I'm even reading some of the comics now. I got some as a gift for my birthday earlier, so I'm still reading through those, and that really kind of takes me away from this crazy world that we're living in now, and into one that can kind of break me away from all that stress of our world. So. Yeah, and I'm reading a new book every week, so I do that a lot, and then just listening to music. But I pretty much keep a low profile. I stay home alone a lot, and just try to stay out of trouble.
Well, at least you're a lawyer, so if you get in trouble, you can get yourself out of it, right?
Yeah, true.
So, what are you currently reading right now?
So right now, actually, I'm reading a classic. I went back and every once in a while I go back and read some classics, and one of them is The Grapes of Wrath. It's a great book. I hadn't read it since I was in high school, I think, and so a lot of it is relevant to what we're dealing with today in our nation. So I'm reading that right now. I'm almost done with it.
That is actually in my top 5.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, that Bluest Eye, probably Color Purple. but that Grapes of Wrath fundamentally changed me when I read it. I probably read it right after high school. And it just, it really made me actually think of my parents as United Auto Workers when their union went on strike and how much they struggled. And, then, it's a great book. Oh my gosh, it's really good. Yeah. I'm actually reading, it's called The Guide for White Women Who Teach Black Boys right now. We're doing a book.
Nice.
That book, and it has definitely opened my eyes. I try to think of myself as someone who gets it, but we always have work to do on ourselves, and especially as educators when we are helping kids come to certain understandings. So real quick, I want to just a couple more comments. MK UTEC says that high schools should be making fee waivers available to parents who are struggling financially. That's true. And I didn't, because Phoenix Union is our feeder. And so we don't see a lot of that. Dr. Gaston is really good about making sure that everything's equitable and that kids will have opportunities to be able to fill in the gaps. But I know that there are districts that charge fees. And so I would like to see that as well, MK.
And I'll mention, Mary Kay has been a great advocate for that issue in the Agua Fria School District. And I know that she's been working hard to get rid of some of those fees there. And so we need more people like her to serve on school boards.
Yeah, and Mariana as well. And that was what,
yeah, Mariana too.
Within the first 5 minutes of meeting Mariana, that was one of the things. And it really opened my eyes because, again, being in the Phoenix Union High School District, we really don't see that. Well, okay, so we're running out of time.
Yes.
I want to say also to everybody, because we had a really strong quarter this time around, and I was just really overwhelmed by the generosity of people who are super passionate about education. So I'm excited actually to post my numbers because it's always a scary thing. And so I hope that you had a good quarter as well. And so thank you so much. It's so nice to see your face, and I can't wait till we can attend another conference and learn more about education.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much, Jeanine. And I'm proud of all the great work you're doing. I can't wait for you to win.
Oh, me too. All right. Well, until next time, Senator Quezada, thank you so much.
All right. Bye, everybody.
All right.